Republican budget priorities, gutting programs that everyday people depend on just for basic survival, giving enormous tax cuts to billionaires, and still managing to explode the national debt. I could go on and on about how abjectly idiotic this budget reconciliation process is, but today I'm going to keep it manageable by just focusing on the truly idiotic things that are in this package related to transportation and what we should be doing about it. And just to keep things in character, I'm going to do a top 10 list of things that are on the chopping block. Now, if you want an explainer on what reconciliation is, this is not that video. Suffice to say, it's an expedited way to pass legislation that deals with taxes and spending when you control the White House and both chambers of Congress, but you don't have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, and the legislation you're trying to pass is so obviously wretched that there's no hope of getting a single member of the opposing party to support it. Let's just focus on transportation, though. The proposal coming out of House Transportation and Infrastructure does include new revenue items, including a $200 annual fee on electric vehicles and a $100 fee on hybrid vehicles. I don't have a huge beef with this since the way we've traditionally funded transportation projects in this country is with fuel taxes, and the EV revolution, which is here, makes that untenable. The problem is where the funding is going. 20% of gas tax revenues have traditionally gone into the mass transit account of the Highway Trust Fund, but this reconciliation package proposes to put 100% of the new EV and hybrid vehicle fees straight into the highway-only account. Let's get into a little more detail. The Republican proposal also rescinds all unobligated grant awards from certain disfavored programs that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act, including neighborhood access and equity, low-carbon transportation materials, and environmental review implementation. If it seems like some 19-year-old Doge hag just went searching for woke keywords like equity, carbon, and environmental, well, I'd have a hard time proving you wrong. Also, I think I should explain the definition of obligated in this context. It means there's an executed project agreement in place with federal highways. That process takes time, and as of now, 97% of the funding in the Neighborhood Access and Equity Program is unobligated, so not good. By the way, you don't have to go read the full text of every congressional bill to know what's going on. Most of the material in this video is pulled from reporting by nonprofits that watchdog this stuff, like Transportation for America and APTA, the American Public Transportation Association. Highly recommended for bookmarking, by the way. But it is depressing reading, and I try not to make depressing videos, so I'm going to give you a top 10 list, and top 10 lists are fun and not depressing. So this will be my 10 favorite projects that got funding out of the Neighborhood Access and Equity Program, but are now on the chopping block. Disclaimer, I'm actually more interested in hitting a variety of geographies and project types just so you get a sense of the scope of what's being lost. And I don't have the data or probably the analytical skills to give you a proper accounting of which project has the most merit. So if you want to call this video vibes-based, that's fine, but let's get into it. These honestly aren't really in any particular order. We're starting in Jacksonville, Florida, and the name of this one is The Emerald Trail, Reconnecting and Revitalizing Jacksonville's Urban Neighborhoods. This one got awarded $147 million for planning, environmental, design, and construction of 15 miles of an off-street bike and ped trail / linear park system, with the idea that it's going to help reconnect communities that were massively compromised by construction of I-95 in the late 50s. One thing you'll hear asked about a project like this, and most of the projects on this list, is why is this a federal concern at all, and shouldn't just locals be paying for it? And I think the answer is the original damage of interstates was almost all federally funded, and to come back and say that repairing that damage is a local responsibility, especially given that interstates were intentionally driven through lower income neighborhoods with no political power, well, that just really strains any definition of justice. Next one, the Chinatown Stitch, Reconnecting Philadelphia's Chinatown. Not all of these are gonna have the word reconnecting in the project title. Well, actually maybe they do. We'll see. The idea here is to lid I-676, the Vine Street Expressway, and restore connectivity and add green space to a location that suffered a lot of harms when the expressway was constructed in the late 80s and early 90s. $160 million for final design and construction of Phase 1. A good idea, and reconciliation puts it in serious jeopardy. Here's an interesting one. Paso del Norte and Stanton International Bridges feasibility study, El Paso, Texas, and really Juarez, Mexico too. Not for detailed design or construction, it's a study to see how they can better integrate transit, walking, and biking into the international crossing, which sees a lot of cross-border commuting, by the way. Book recommendation alert. It's American Oasis by Kyle Paoletta. A really interesting look at the history and ongoing challenges and opportunities of cities in the American Southwest, stretching from El Paso to Las Vegas, Nevada. And includes a really good section on the relationship between El Paso and Juarez. Kyle's a really great writer, and this is a fascinating read. Houston, outside the scope of that book, but let's go there anyway. Complete, connected, resilient communities, Gulfton and Kashmere Gardens Resilient Sidewalks Project. I'm gonna be honest, some of these projects just have way too many words in the title. Like, I understand the word resilient is a pretty hot piece of terminology in the planning profession, but does it really need to be in there twice? So I did not get to Gulfton when I went to Houston in 2023 because I really wanted to talk about the city inside the 610 loop. But Gulfton is practically the densest part of the metro area, also one of the most economically disadvantaged, and by all accounts, the sidewalk coverage and tree canopy are seriously lacking, so this would be $43 million well spent. Well, or just cut the project and send all that money to tech billionaires. Okay, gotta do this one. Reconnecting Atlanta's South Side communities, Atlanta Beltline to Flint River Trail. This one's a bit like the Jacksonville project, using bike ped infrastructure to stitch back together a bunch of communities that were ravaged, not only by construction of a freeway, in this case I-85 and others, but by continual expansion of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. $65 million project that would improve connectivity to MARTA rail stations too, and extend some of the positive Beltline energy south into areas where it's badly needed. I'm a fan. 5. The Link Implementation Project in New Rochelle, just on the north side of the Bronx. This one takes Memorial Highway, which is a pretty unsightly and unpleasant strode where it runs between Lincoln Avenue and the New Rochelle Metro North Station, and converts it into a linear park with tons of urban design and environmental features. The existing condition is just a nasty piece of infrastructure. Every city has stuff like this, and I submit to you, we could create a stimulus bonanza in this country by just doing projects like this in every city instead of giving billions in tax breaks to tech moguls. Radical idea, I know. Next up, the Reunited Denver Project, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea. I can't guarantee I pronounced all of that right, but the project connects two historically disadvantaged neighborhoods that suffered a lot of damage when I-70 was constructed. The grant funds new multimodal bridges, one over the South Platte River and one over the BNSF and RTD tracks that run through the Stockyards Center. It improves connectivity to the RTD station, and the project would fund reclamation and remediation of some pretty polluted brownfield land that could be converted to neighborhood use. Seems like a winner. Okay, in a minute, the top 3. No honorable mentions, you can just go read the whole list yourself. Transportation for America has all the projects mapped with descriptions. But first, usual ways to engage with the channel and connect on the apps. I don't have a sponsor for today's video because instead of buying safety razors or signing up for paywalled websites, which are things that I endorse, I want you to contact your congressperson or maybe a senator or two and let them know what you think about this whole reconciliation mess. Transportation for America makes it easy to sign their letter, which is geared toward preserving neighborhood access and equity grant funding. But just on the off chance there are other aspects of the reconciliation bill that you have some hesitation about, T4A also links the lookup tool that'll help you find the contact page for your House rep. Even if your congressperson is a Democrat, let them know how important their no vote is to you and tell them to keep fighting. And if you can swing it, phone calls make a huge difference. They keep track of all of that stuff. Okay, let's do the last three. Very different projects in very different regions. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, connecting north to south, a complete 6th Street. So the corridor in question is a north-south arterial that connects through downtown Milwaukee to the neighborhoods on the north and south side. Neighborhoods that were devastated not only by the construction of I-43, but the widening of a lot of arterials that feed into the freeway system, including 6th Street. The project would narrow the roadway, add enhanced bike and ped facilities, add to the tree canopy, and make 6th into a much more people-centered place. 2, project title needs some work, in my opinion, but it's a bicycle and pedestrian crossing of the Fitchburg MBTA commuter rail line in North Cambridge. It's a $2.4 million grant just for planning and design. The immediate effect of the bridge would be to connect a bunch of multifamily housing in the Ringe Avenue neighborhood to the north with Fresh Pond Mall and nearby commercial and employment to the south, but it'll have network effects too, improving access to the Alewife Red Line station, and it'll complete some larger regional connections on the bike ped network. And here's something that just drives me absolutely crazy about the Republican/Doge approach to government spending. $2.4 million is absolutely nothing in the federal budget scheme of things, but for a local jurisdiction, it's a huge boost to a much needed project. People in cities send a lot of money to the federal government, like probably a disproportionate amount every year. Is it that much to ask that we get support for good projects in return? Okay, last one. Finally, a concise project title, Healing Hollywood. This is $3.6 million just for planning, so don't get too excited. But the idea is to lid US 101 through East Hollywood in LA, creating a mile-long Hollywood Central Park and reconnecting a community that was ripped apart by the construction of the 101. The project area actually catches some of the 3-kilometer circle that I identified as the densest place in the US outside of New York City. And I'd like this even better if the lid supported multifamily structures, but at minimum, the project would reduce noise, filter vehicle emissions, and add green space, making the area a more attractive place to develop denser housing. This is the type of thing that, on a society-wide cost basis, I suspect would have no problem penciling out if you account for healthcare costs and quality of life improvements and other stuff, but we never seem to do benefit cost analyses that way. Reduced tax liabilities for billionaires are just so much easier to quantify. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and special thanks to the patrons. As always, your direct support makes it possible for me to make it political once in a while without worrying too much about losing subscribers. Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new episode next week, and I'll see you then.